So we're here today with the U.S. Coast Guard and U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary to talk a little bit about paddlecraft safety. And our first message today is going to be on equipment, safety equipment, and signaling devices, what to do if you see someone in trouble or if you're in trouble yourself. So pretty much the paddlecraft safety program starts with the vessel safety check, and we'll go over parts of the equipment that are part of that check today. The first thing that's required on paddlecraft, and these are federal requirements for the Great Lakes and the connecting waters, coastal areas, are going to be a life jacket. And it has to be one life jacket per person, it must be Coast Guard approved, and it must be in serviceable condition, which means that the straps must be in good condition, and if there's any reflective tape on it, it has to be not torn or tattered. So Coast Guard approved life jackets. Type 1s or Type 2s are the recommended types, and for kayaks and paddlecraft, a Type 5, a special device is also usable. You also have to have a horn or a whistle or a bell or something to make noise. And so on paddlecraft, the best device is simply an emergency whistle. And this is not the type of whistle that a referee would have. There's no ball attached. And so the safety whistle is without, and again, Coast Guard approved. And they have to be heard within about a half nautical mile. If you don't have a whistle, a lot of paddlecraft operators carry a horn, and this is just a hand-blown horn, which creates a pretty good noise. So it can be also heard within that, up to that half-mile radius. And these are both simple. You can also use an air horn. Other devices that aren't required but are a good idea would be a signaling mirror. It allows you to create a glare across another boater's face or an aircraft, just to raise awareness of where you are. So signaling mirrors are really one of the best tools that we have. You have to be persistent with them because at first they're just recognized as a windshield glare, but they're very effective tools for safety. Flares can be used for nighttime operation. And again, this would be inclement weather or going out in the dark. And these plastic flares work really well because they can get wet and still function. 3 flares are required on paddlecraft that are going to be out after dark. There are different types of flares. So these sky blasters are just hand ejected, simple to use, simple to carry. And the really commonly seen flares, the stick flares, are a little more complicated, and they have to be kept in a waterproof compartment. But the caps snap off. There's a striking plate. Also a striking plate on the edge of the flare. Always strike away from yourself and the vessel. Hold the flare over the water, not over the vessel, and strike away from you. And that'll create a hot flare, and these are allowed to be disposed of in the Great Lakes. But the only thing that is allowed is a safety flare. Only during times of distress and only when you can see something. A helicopter, a boat, a person. They're not very useful unless you can see someone. Also required for nighttime operation is a white light. Paddlecraft don't have side lights, stern lights, masthead lights. So in most cases, the only source of light would be a handheld lantern or light. And this isn't something that's kept on at all times like it would be for other vessels, but it's shown in the direction of an oncoming vessel should you need to. So it's a little bit different in its requirements, and it should be waterproof. Should carry extra batteries. In times of distress, when you need to make a call to someone for help, there's about 3 items that you could have. You could use a cell phone, which are not very reliable. Once they're wet, they're usually not usable. And occasionally missed calls go through to 911 operating systems. So the Coast Guard really isn't recommending cell phones for safety devices. What we are recommending is a handheld VHF radio, a marine radio. And what's nice about these is they're lightweight, they now float. They have trouble with reach because paddlecraft are so low in the water, so sometimes we have trouble getting out because of that lowness. But once you turn them on, they automatically come up to channel 16, 1-6. So you don't have to fumble around for a distress. That's the inter-universal calling channel. So channel 16 or channel 13 are the channels that we're interested in. And again, channel 16 comes up. You don't really have to know any fancy language. Tell them that you're in trouble, what the nature of the trouble is, and what you look like, what your color is, how long your paddlecraft is, whether you're 1 person or 2 person on board. And again, where I am. So look around before you take off. Make sure you can find 3 points of reference. The bay, something that doesn't move, boats move around, so something on shore that's stable. A white house, a tall tree that branches in a different direction. Make sure you understand where you are so you can relay that to the Coast Guard. The other method of communications, and they're coming down in price now, are the personal locator beacons. And this size is really nice for a kayaker. They also make a smaller version with a single signal. Very simple to operate. Again, they're fairly waterproof. You open them up and you lift the orange flap. That sends out a locator beacon. It's picked up within 10 minutes. There's usually kind of some type of response initiated. So while this actual response might go to Milwaukee, it'll initiate a signal at the local Coast Guard station in your area. So great for coastal waters, again, the Great Lakes waters, connecting waters, inlets and bays. Probably the most overlooked but important item is the paddle. And there's also a lanyard that you can get. It's a nice safety device that can be attached to your paddle and then is hooked onto your vest. I happen to have a SAR vest on today, but this can be clipped to a SAR vest and or a life jacket. And that way, if you lose the paddle, you've actually still able to retrieve it without going into the water. Since kayaks are fairly difficult to right in deep water, it's a good idea to have a lanyard. A paddle can also be a useful signaling device because this method of left to right motion means I'm in trouble. It's a pretty universal signal. Clearly, if you're waving it violently, you're going to grab more attention than if you're not. So it's probably one of the best safety signals there is. If you should lose your paddle, the other universal safety signal is your arms, right? And it's big motions, not small motions. You know, a wave is one thing, or I'm in trouble, but a significant motion to tell that you are in trouble is really important. It's always a good idea to carry an alternate paddle should you lose your paddle. So these small paddles are now available with extending handles for paddlecraft. So now you have another way to move should you lose your main paddling device. Again, compact, foldable. It can fit down in the paddlecraft alongside your legs. Another good idea is to have a bailing device. So these small hand pumps are very usable in most of the water pools where you're seated. That's the lowest spot in the kayak. So it doesn't cost much effort to grab the pump and go ahead and pump out that extra water. Happens when a boat passes you with a high wake or you're in a high traffic area. So a really nice item. They're brightly colored so they can be used as signaling devices also. One of the things we like to see on paddlecraft, we use them on our larger vessels, is it's a heaving line. It's pretty simple. It can be made out of a tennis ball and a nylon cord. It allows you to pull yourself to the shore from whatever length of line you choose to put on it. We usually put about 75 feet on these. It also allows you to rescue a fellow paddler. And I think that's where it's the most useful, because it allows you to hang on to the line and go ahead and extend a line to a fellow paddler without much effort or much tipping on your part. So it keeps you safe, keeps your vessel safe, but can lend a helping hand. So these are really nice devices. The universal distress sign is always good to hold, and they come in very compact forms now. This one can be folded up. It's made out of a plastic material. It can actually be floated on the water so a helicopter or a plane could see it, or it can be held up. And this would be the correct way to hold the universal distress signal. Now, does that mean if you hold it like this, or if you happen to hold it like this because you're a little panicked, that someone's not going to recognize that you're in trouble? No, they're going to recognize this signal. So any way that you happen to get it up and can hold it high enough is going to be recognized. What's also helpful but can be kind of disorienting to other boaters are strobe lights. So we're starting to see a lot of paddlecraft wearers either on their life vests go ahead and Velcro these strobes to their shoulders and or have them in their gear bags. Again, at night or in inclement weather, really sends out a nice blinking signal. Normally when we see a strobe, we go looking to see what's behind that strobe. There's a lot of different models on the market. Both of these work really well. Just need to keep the batteries updated. We just recommend replacing batteries once a year. So you now know how to signal with a flare, holding it over the vessel. You know how to blow a whistle or a horn. And the distress signals for horns or whistles are 5 short blasts. If you might happen to blow once or twice or 3 times, people might think that you're passing another vessel or you're backing up. Those are common signals for those types of maneuvers. But if you blow 5 or more short blasts, we're clearly going to know that you're in trouble. And then it's a matter of trying to figure out where you are. Again, you can do that either on the horn or on the whistle. So these are probably the primary signaling devices and safety tools that you're going to need while you're paddling, other than making sure that your vessel is in good condition before you leave, telling somebody where you're going to go and when you plan to be back, and leaving a float plan, letting somebody know where you're going to go and what time all of these travels are going to occur and where they're going to end. So I think we've explained most of the paddlecraft safety rules and the equipment that might be needed and how to signal for help. That's what I have for you today.